It is an honor and a great lot of fun to be a part of the 35th anniversary season of Discover Wisconsin. What a celebration. Just like the 34 years before this one, we are out as a team already creating great stories to share with you about the wonderful people, places, and things that make this the best state to hang out in. Thank you for being a part of our journey.
This week on Discover Wisconsin, we're visiting local artists, museums, and events to learn not only about local art, but also some of our history and culture too.
Hello and welcome to Discover Wisconsin.
As a UW grad, I always love returning to campus, and today I'm checking out a place that has coffee, good people watching, art, and best of all, it's free. Let's check out the Chazen Museum of Art. Hi, Amy, nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thanks for coming.
So excited to be here. Should we kick things off with some coffee?
Absolutely.
Well, Amy, it is so good to be back on the University of Wisconsin-Madison's campus. I am a grad, always love coming back, and there's so much that feels so familiar, yet every time I'm here, there's something new, and the Chazen Museum of Art is one of those things for me. I have never been here, and I'm excited to check it out today, so thanks for having me.
Well, we're really excited to show you around.
So for those who aren't familiar, what is the Chazen Museum of Art?
Part of what we want to be is the largest arts classroom on campus. We don't really think that's just for art students. This is your museum, because we really are the art museum also for Madison.
It's really fun going to an art museum with an art lover like Amy. She really opened my eyes to the stories and the meaning behind these works.
This is an image of Marilyn Monroe that he did not make himself, right? I mean, he didn't take the original picture, but he knew that she was an icon, and he made her an icon like religious icons. This is by Picasso.
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him. This is the original drawing. This is the maquette that he made out of paper. This is the final object.
This museum did such a great job of showing the story behind the art, helping you understand the perspective of the artist, really seeing the process.
I will often find people sitting actually in the bridge gallery looking out onto the lake.
I love a good view.
Which is a really terrific view.
Being on Lake Mendota is one of my favorite parts about the campus, so to be able to see it elevated when you're surrounded by art and the cool glass was just really, really neat for me.
Part of what we want to do is get the people in the door who maybe don't think that museums are relevant for them, or they don't feel entirely comfortable. We all crave interactions with real things, with real objects, with real people. We want to provide that for people. So I often talk about actually having what we call a Chazen moment, right? Where we're free. We want you to come in and just take a couple minutes, go visit one thing in the gallery, or wander around for 5 minutes and just be by yourself and engage with the objects in the work. And we feel like that is really part of understanding who we are as humans, and that's one of the things that we want to do better.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things about it being free is you can just browse for 5 to 20 minutes and not feel guilty that you didn't get your money's worth. And I know sometimes museums have a reputation for being a little bit more formal and where you have to be quiet. Now, when I was a student, I wore sweatpants to class. So would I have been allowed here? Could I have come in my sweatpants?
You could have come in your sweatpants. You can come as you are, right? It can be a really quiet and contemplative space, but it can also feel really dynamic and alive. If you come here during the day, sometimes there'll be whole classes of students who are spread out all over the museum, and they're drawing, or they're writing, or they're talking to each other, and it just feels so alive, and that is really wonderful.
And for those who have been here before, there's still always something new to make you want to come back, whether it's an event or a rotating exhibit, for example.
Absolutely. Part of the joy of being in a museum and exploring is the idea that you would be able to come here and see something that you hadn't expected, or something new that you learned something about. And I've worked here for 4 years, and there's still things that I discover every single time I go in the galleries that I hadn't really thought about were there before.
Well, my main takeaway was there are a ton of work, something for everyone. Whether or not you're going for 5 minutes or an entire day, you are guaranteed to find your Chazen moment.
Hey, it's Eric Paulson. Happy 35th to the whole show of Discover Wisconsin. I'm proud to have been on it for almost a quarter of its life, and I'm very proud and happy to share it with you. Thanks.
Welcome back. You're watching Discover Wisconsin. We're in Sturgeon Bay aboard the tugboat John Purves, and welcome to the Door County Maritime Museum. The Door County Maritime Museum sits on the working waterfront of Sturgeon Bay. The museum puts the rich history of one of Door County's biggest industries right on display for everyone to experience. Today, I got the chance to talk with the museum's director, Kevin Osgood, about some of the museum's exhibits and learn about Wisconsin's maritime history. Let's check out that tugboat before we head inside.
This is the historic tug, John Purves. You look at her, she doesn't look a day over 100, but she's 102 years old. She was launched in 1919 as the tug Butterfield, and if you look closely right behind her name Purves, you can see where Butterfield is still welded into the hull. And she has an incredible amount of stories to tell. If you go on a guided tour, our docents are the same volunteers that worked on restoring her, and they have some amazing stories to tell. The museum started in Door County in 1969. A group of local fishermen and historians got together and built the first Door County Maritime Museum, and then built this building in 1996, which is 4 galleries right here on the working waterfront.
Okay, so the tower is the big new exciting addition. Tell us more about the tower.
The tower itself is an all-in 10-story exhibit. It tells the maritime history of Door County from its very beginnings and its geologic formation all the way up to the working port of today. These exhibits have science, technology, engineering, arts, and math all involved. So when a guest comes in, they go to the movie theater and they watch a short film that has 10 chapters about those histories, and then you go to the top and you see the working waterfront of Sturgeon Bay, which is, okay, this is what we have today. And then as you descend via the stairwell, you have each of those chapters to experience as you move through. So you leave that working waterfront and you go to the 9th floor, which is all about the geologic formation and Niagara escarpment and how the glaciers carved out this part of our world and why the Great Lakes are here. You descend to the next floor and it's about the people that were here. And then you descend to the next one, it's about the commerce that came with the people, and then the navigation that came originally with Native Americans and then with the Europeans when they arrived, and then shipbuilding and recreational boating. And at the very bottom of the tower, which is floor 2, is shipwrecks. There are more than 275 shipwrecks just off the coast of Door County, and a large concentration of those are up in Death's Door. When the French came here, they actually named it Port de Mort, which means Death's Door. They didn't have the National Weather Service and they didn't have satellite technology, so they wouldn't know when a storm was coming up. And we all know what happens on the Great Lakes in the fall is you have those surprise storms. So those lighthouses were literally life and death. That's how people got around on the lakes. That was the only way the captains of schooners knew where they were going, and where the dangers were. There are 11 lighthouses in Door County. Wow. You can't find 11 lighthouses in this short a mile of shoreline anywhere else in the country. The water defines who we are in Door County. It defines everything. For the tourism that comes in today, they're brought in by the water. Mm-hmm. And the industries that are here are all about the water, the shipbuilding, a marine travel lift, which builds massive lifts to lift anything from recreational boats to ships out of the water and move them around. There's a lot of industry here around that. So the water truly defines our community here in Door County.
What I'm excited about is I feel like spending the day here at the Maritime Museum, I feel like I have like a much better sense about what Door County is, and I can't wait to come back and bring my family, and I'll feel like I have much better appreciation for everything that goes on here. Check out our episodes of Discover Wisconsin on our YouTube channel and app. Stay tuned, because coming up next, I'm headed to Cambridge to learn about our local traditions in pottery. Welcome back. You're watching Discover Wisconsin. Cambridge, Wisconsin has a long history with pottery and a large community of local artists who keep the tradition alive. I met with local potter Mark Skudlarek at his studio, Cambridge Wood-Fired Pottery, and talked with him about his own work and using a wood-fired kiln, as well as Cambridge's history with the art form itself, which began with Rowe Pottery, an artisan studio and handcrafted manufacturing facility that's still in operation today.
Back in the late 70s and early 80s, Jim Rowe started doing reproductions of early American salt glazed pottery. And within a matter of a short period of time, he went from being self-employed to, I don't know, probably about 6-7 years later, employing nearly 100 people. A lot of people thought that potters came here because of clay, and really it was because of the market. I came here specifically because the market was already established, but as that demand declined, potters continued to live in the area, because they established their families here and,
Right. And so
stuck
did
around.
they then they created their own studios?
Exactly. Yeah. That's really, why we're still kind of entrenched in clay in this Cambridge area. It's almost like continuing to speak a language that's being lost, and that's what I really like about, wood-fired, traditionally inspired wood-fired pots.
Was it always wood-fired kilns that was interesting to you?
Yeah, you put all this time and energy into making a pot, but then you put it into like an electric kiln or a gas-fired kiln, and then you walk away from the process. And so the first time I fired with wood, it was just so visceral. It really becomes kind of a living, animal. And it's no surprise that the Chinese called their kilns dragon kilns, just due to the fact that you're feeding this beast, and as the temperature gets hotter and hotter and hotter, its appetite becomes more voracious. So that whole process of wood firing, really intrigued me. The other thing too is a sense of community, because I fired this kiln for 7 days, and there's no possible way that I could stay up for 7 days, and fire the kiln. So we take 6-hour shifts. And so I have a lot of friends or the potters that come and help me stoke the kiln. Unpacking the kiln, you basically sort of open this thing up and there's going to be treasures inside. It could be Christmas or Halloween depending on how the firing goes. But man, every once in a while you pull those gems out and they are just absolutely stunning. And that's what really kind of inspires you to go through the next production cycle and do it all over again.
Each year, Mark also helps with seasonal events that feature local pottery. Every spring, summer, and fall, there's something exciting to see for yourself.
So the Clay Collective Spring Tour, it's a driving tour of all the studios that are in the area. There's approximately 24 potters, I think, altogether. And all of them have different styles of work that are available for sale.
And then, so that's happening in the spring, and then what's after that?
So a few years ago, we started Firefest. And so the great thing about Firefest, it's all the arts are inspired by fire. In the past, we've had glass blowers, we've had an iron pour. The really kind of the hallmark of the event, we bring in an artist to build a fire sculpture. That gets fired for approximately a week. And then Saturday evening, we reveal the sculpture at top temperature around 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. And so the panels open up. We throw sawdust on it, so you get this big plume of flame coming off of it. So it's all really dramatic. It's something I really enjoy doing. That's the greatest thing for me anyway, is that I don't really look at myself as, when I wake up and come into the shop, going to work. It's, I get to do this another day. I always tell people I retired when I was 29 after my apprenticeship.
Can you believe it's the 35th anniversary of Discover Wisconsin? That's amazing. I'm so excited to be part of this. All right, I'll see you later.
Welcome back. You're watching Discover Wisconsin. Every June, the Cedarburg Artists Guild hosts the largest gathering of artists in Wisconsin as painters flock from around the world to capture the historic beauty that is preserved here. Paint Cedarburg is a plein air painting event which tasks artists with painting any of the town's many picturesque sites live and in the moment, while spectators get to watch these paintings come to life. Sitting along Cedar Creek, I got to meet with one of the founding members of the Cedarburg Artists Guild and founder of Paint Cedarburg, Sandra McCutcheon-Pape, about her efforts to preserve and restore this town's historical charm.
Cedarburg is a historic town. Our main street has many buildings that were here in the mid-1800s. And we have been listed on the National Register of Historic Places
And I know you're very passionate about preserving the history here. Tell me a little bit about your role in a couple historical places you've been able to help preserve.
In '72, we bought the mill, the Woolen Mill, and then over the years we restored it, and there was a Washington House Inn. It was built in 1884. When it was for sale, we bought it, and then we restored it back to its original, and it is now an inn. Cedarburg is definitely a charming historic town. Plus, we have wonderful picturesque dams, and the Cedar Creek goes through our town, which makes it very charming.
Walking around Cedarburg, surrounded by its beautiful sights and the talent of all the visiting artists, it's hard not to catch some inspiration and try painting a little myself. Who knows, maybe I could even sell my work at the end of the day.
Better just stick to hosting.
Let's pretend that didn't happen. It's time to meet one of Paint Cedarburg's Best in Show winners, Antoine Ramar, who's in town to judge this year's competition.
Plein air events just give you this opportunity to engage with your subject matter, nature, and then people. Plein air painting is such a great way for the community to engage with the artists themselves. They get to see the evolution along with you as they walk around, so that's really a neat quality to plein air events.
So tell me about your award-winning painting.
All right, so this painting was done in 2019, and I decided to go with something a little outside of town. Some of the back roads just outside of the city limits are really charming and have some amazing little secret farms like this.
And this year you're judging the event, so what are you looking for?
Often people look at a painting and they go, oh, it's roses, it's beautiful, or it's a river scene, it's beautiful. But for me, I'm looking how they decide to handle the intricacies of the paint itself, the subject matter, and they give you a little bit more poetry than just the literal sense of the painting. So that's what I'm always looking for, what the painter sees beyond the literal.
Something that's really unique about Cedarburg is there's a community of artists that get together and network, and that was on full display today. So what did you paint today?
I painted this bottle house, which is a historic house built in 1906.
What are you painting today?
The mill.
So you've been painting at this event for about 15 years. What keeps bringing you back?
Well, there's so much to paint in town here. I mean, look at the scenery. Anywhere you look, you can find something to paint.
I think art is everywhere, and it has influenced me in my home, in my garden. You don't have to go to an art museum to see art. Just look around, and Mother Nature is full of art.
Just the combination of everything from seeing artists paint live to the history and the quaint little shops and restaurants, it really creates an atmosphere. You almost feel like you're going back in time. It's really special.
Continue the adventure and stream Discover Wisconsin on all your favorite devices by scanning the QR code in the upper right corner of your screen.